So I've got these pocket LEDs from Pilotfly, and they're great. I love working with them. If you want to see my full review, I do have a link for that down in the video description. But one of the limitations of working with these is that it's a little bit tricky to kind of control the spill, or shape the light, or even add diffusion to it without some extra setup. So I was really pumped to see that Pilotfly not only developed a diffusion cover that can slip onto the light itself, but also a grid that's going to help you a lot to control that spill, to shape your light more, just to use it more creatively. And in true Pilotfly fashion, I think especially with the grid, they really worked hard to develop this in a way that doesn't cut down on your light output all that much, but gives you the maximum amount of control over the spill of your light. So today, thank you to Pilotfly for sending these over to me to check out. We're going to take these out of the box, see how they feel, see how easy they are to use, which I mean, it's foolproof pretty much, but I'm going to put these in the lights and show you exactly what they can do for you. So let's get into it. Hey, I'm Scott and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing. What we do is all kinds of unboxings, tutorials, tests, reviews, anything photo and video related. So once again, if you like the content, please do consider subscribing and make sure that you hit that little bell icon to get notifications when new videos are uploaded. Anyway, let's get right into it. So these are the 4 boxes. Excuse the glare for the moment. Pretty nice boxes overall. If you look on the back, you can see some basic information. Of course, there's the grid, the diffuser. They're foldable, toolless, pocket size, and ultra light, and I can say yes, they are actually pretty light. The diffuser shade, which is the diffusion, the other one, says some of the specs for here. The weight is only 55 grams, size, whatever, it's the same size as the light. The honeycomb grid is 75 grams, a little bit heavier, although not that big of a difference. And yeah, they're both made of silicone. So let's get these open and see how they feel in the hand. Alright, so taking these out of the box, there are only a couple of other lights on the market like this that do actually have a diffuser. I've only seen one other with a grid, and so I'm going to compare them to those just within my experience. I'm not going to name brand names because I don't want to badmouth anybody, but generally speaking, these are really, really nice. For the diffusion dome, around the edges, there is a little bit of thickness to it that gives it a bit of rigidity that holds that shape nicely, and I do appreciate that they went above and beyond here and included this full part on this half of the back, so it's not just straps that go around it, just to hold it in place a little bit more securely. We'll see how it fits once we get it on there, but they could have just done simple straps across here, but they didn't, and I appreciate that. As for the grid, it's pretty much the same story. You got a nice rigidity to the frame of it. I mean, it's flexible, of course. You can fold it if you need to. It's going to be durable, but it has enough rigidity around the outside that it's going to hold its shape, and the grid itself is also nice and just thick enough that I think it's going to hold its shape well, but I think they worked really hard to get the placement of these little spaces here to line up with the LEDs on the actual light, so you're not going to be blocking the LEDs with this grid pattern here. We'll see just how much it really does affect it in just a minute. One more small touch that I just noticed on both of these, it does have this little extra kind of, looks like a clip almost at the end of it, so that way it's going to hold it in place and not slide off if you have this mounted somewhere vertically, so that way this is not going to slide off due to gravity. This will just hold it on just that extra little bit, so that way you don't have to worry about that. So to get it onto the light itself, you're just going to slide in the part which goes under this more full cover in the back, I guess, and just push it in there. And once you get that in place, you can slide this final strap around the other side. This is easier to do if I'm not trying to look at the camera as well. Now, I'm not sure how well you can see this on camera, but they think they did a pretty good job of lining up that grid pattern with the little LEDs that are inside there. I'll try and turn this on in a second, and I'll overlay that video here if that's a little bit easier to see, but I suspect that turning these LEDs on is just going to blind the camera. But they did a good job with lining that up. Of course, all of these switches and the dials and everything are fully accessible here, and the rear screen is fully visible. There's nothing that's getting hindered by adding this onto your light, which is really good. The diffusion dome fits in pretty much the same way, so you can see all of the ports and buttons and dials and everything are fully accessible, as is the screen on the rear. Really, it's a pretty much identical fit to the grid. The front of it is softer than the sides, so even though you do have a little bit of a rigid edge to it, the front is not so thick that it's really significantly cutting down the output of light. I'll test it and I'll put some screen information on screen just to show you in terms of specs how much this does cut down on the light as well as the grid, but I'll also show you in just a second how this affects the light quality. So like I said, if you want to see my full review of these lights themselves, I do actually have a couple of videos featuring them, so I will put links for those down in the video description. But if you have any other questions or comments about the diffusion or the grid or the lights themselves, just let me know down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. But for now, if you like this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.